I can do that just to answer Andreas's question. Well, technically, but P is not part of the hex numbering, so and it had to be
That
hex.
makes sense. Also, I was just commenting on you spelling it in Danish rather than Norwegian.
Yeah, sure. Good. So today we're going to be talking about slaying the dreaded default icon dragon again. This is a continuation of my presentation at G-Central number 4, or DevCon number 4. Sorry, old habit. And if you haven't seen it, there's a link to it right here, where you can go and have a look after this part. I decided to, since this is 2023, I've decided to go for a lot of reuse. So if something becomes, if something looks familiar from the previous one and you already seen that, that's probably why. Otherwise, the official reason is that I ran out of time. So let's see here. For our giants of female, I don't know if it's common here, but I chose to reuse Wilhelmina Fleming because she fits so nicely with the theme of trying to look at very small things on a very large scale. And today we're talking about icons. Her contribution to science was discovering among other things, discovering the Horsehead Nebula in the Orion constellation. So kudos to her. A little bit about myself, I'll do it quickly. I am a systems engineer and product owner at G-Power, and I have some certifications. I also work for the GID exchange under G-Central, and I'm part of the board of directors on G-Central. And if you don't know G-Central, we are an open source non-profit for the LabVIEW community. A little bit about G-Power for those who don't know. We're not your ordinary science partner. You don't just hire us. We have 10 other partners that we involve in our problems and our customer solutions. We also have 18 physicists and engineers working on all of various projects. We have something about, or we do product testing. We do performance validations on complex systems. And we also do these control and automation systems, as well as research and lab equipment. So if you need something customly made that's hard to do, we're probably going to be a good candidate for doing it. We're based in Hinderup in Denmark. And you may also know some of our tools from the VI Package Manager Network, where we have some open source tools released. More to come on that in the future. But for now, we are back in the story about the quick the story about Jesper the wizard, who works from tech support and who's also going to be our hero today. Additionally, the villains of our story are still these icons spreading the chaos across the land of LabVIEW, namely the default icon and its older and uglier brother, the BI icon with the text name, which is being appraised by some developers as the best thing since sliced bread. I do disagree. One day, when Jesper was out spelunking as previous, he found this tome of iconic knowledge, and due to the short time allotted at G-Central, GDevCon, we had some parts that we had to skip over. So I'll just quickly run over the additional things that he found out about templates. So templates is sort of a preset, and here's some more inspiration for how you could set up all your templates. The inspiration is, of course, taken from G-Power. So here in the top left, we have all the icons that gets an arrow wire. They are full size, as you can see. If you've seen the presentation already, you'll know that these, or the previous presentation, that these arrows indicate whether it's reading or writing, both for full size VIs and for VIs without the arrow wire. As you can see, they are smaller in size. and they are all fitting the 5x3x3x5 connector pane. Additionally, if you're doing a lot of APIs, it's useful to have a template that you can add for a deprecated function so that it shows up on your block diagram before you actually deprecate it in the next major version of your API. And it will also show up in your palettes. Sometimes you need to do some conversion from one input to another. And in this case, it's useful to have this conversion bullet, but it has a very limited graphical area. So consider using one of these instead. The same goes for if you're building controls. It's useful to have a unified control template to fill in all your stuff. Last but not least, if you're building menus, having for comparison a specific menu that you can overlay on your palette is useful with these templates. And if you're building VI, malleable VIs, or doing assertion, these templates are useful, particularly if you're also building them into your palettes. Moving on slightly. Glyphs. There were a lot of questions about organization, eh? So one of the things that came across was how do you actually organize all your glyphs? And one of the ways we've Jesper has solved this, or in GBAR we've solved it, is to have our own structured way of putting all the symbols. There's specific controls, there's stuff for percentages. We have specific arrows, as you saw on our template, and we have stuff that's specific to test stand and necessary for building test stand related types. And last but not least, we have something related to text. I'll come back to that in chapter 3. There's data types, there's LabVIEW specific stuff, and then there's the general category of symbols. And most of what you see here is from the symbols menu. As you can see, we're also doing stuff with VIPs. So we have some logos for that. The most important thing about this organization here is that you, in your documentation folder, there's the LabVIEW data folder, and there create your own top folder and control everything from there and downwards. It's more, it makes it easier for you if you control it, but also you can easily copy all your data into this folder if you need to. So this can be very, very helpful. We have one batch script that updates all of this from our repository. Just run that and you're up to date with the latest one. Press this one and hey presto, you're going. But we were talking about or mentioning the text part. So basically, as I mentioned, there are some amendments to this about text. A lot of people use the type layer or text layer in the icon editor, and I see it as an anti-pattern. I would prefer people to do this instead. Write your own characters. And you can use it very often for writing a more tight and nice VI compared to trying to fit anything around a text layer or otherwise. And some examples could be that you have to do some math in your application. So writing a small linear equation shows that you have your variable, you have your input A and B, you have your output Y. That could be one way of doing it. But you also have the benefit of actually being able to do both sub and superscripts, which is not possible in the text layer, at least not to my knowledge. So I can only recommend running this. But those were all the questions from the GDevCon presentation that went unanswered. So time to dig into something more sinister. Class icons. A lot of people have probably cut their teeth, at least at some days the phone in the software test department or help department rang off the hook related to class icons. And it sometimes comes from a misconception about how the class icon should be perceived. And in order to sort of get this right, I asked an archmage about this, or in this case, a former Archmage Emeritus, Stephen Loftus Mercer, who stated that the relationship between a parent class icon and a child class icon should be thought of as equal to the code relationship. The child class modifies the parent with specific features. So this grand quote sort of frames some of the problems that people have had with the icons. First thing to note is if you are building a class, in this case a knowledge source class, here signified by the storage device that's storing all the data, and it can store some knowledge, so we can write some, store some data into this class. If we have this as a parent, this would be the icon of it, of course. But if we accent it with a book class that stores book information into the knowledge class system, if we put the icons next to each other, then you sort of have accented the class itself with this kind of information that it's both a knowledge class and it's a book related class. In the case of having multiple types, sometimes, given that we only have a very short or a very small footprint for the icon itself, this will also sometimes take up a lot of space if we try to follow this pattern. So sometimes you could try to forget about this part and then move your child icon over here, and you would end up with what was known by or coined by Hunter and Tome as icon mushing, where it tries to mush all the icons together. Technically, it fills out all the parts that are not filled out by the child icon with what's written on the parent icon. And this might be a problem for you, but maybe there's a workaround, because if you use the video here, the video class is another way of knowledge source, and it inherits from the knowledge source parent. But because on the video class itself, there is a black border around the icon or the glyph for the class. This sort of prevents the icon from seeping in, or all the parent icon from being placed here. So any enclosed borders around this on the class here would prevent the icon, the parent icon, from zipping, from coming into this icon. And this is one way of solving this, but it also makes up a dark black border that you don't want to. You might not think that is aesthetically pleasing. So either that, or you need to you can either do this, or you need to reduce your parent footprint if you want to add a glyph for each class. And it's probably easier to show if we create. Let's see if we can do that. Here we go. So for I have all of my projects here, and if we look at or if we create now let's do it like this. No, wrong one. Sorry. We'll create a class instead, and we will just save it as a brain class. Sorry, off screen here, and in the properties we will put the inheritance over to the. I must have forgotten to open something here. Let's see. Cancel. Why am I blanking on? Got a message from behind my here. Just a second. No, I didn't create it the right place. I closed instead. That sucks. Just a second. Come on. Can't I? Okay. I should have sacrificed a virgin or two to the demo gods. We'll just do it this way instead. Then just create one here. And hit the inheritance button. There we go. So inherit from sector. And right now we don't have any changes in our icon, besides that we have this large ugly one. So if we, and I believe I was testing this part, that if we change this to transparent, now that we still have a wrong one. There we go. Thank you. And like this. And we drop a glyph on top of this. Let's just put test part here. And we can put this here. Then we will probably see a when we create a new VIF override, in this case store knowledge, we can see that, and it's a bit hard to see, but we can see that the class has changed here. And it's my icon enhancer. Just a second. Nope, on. So for, where was it? This one. I was trying to show this part here. Why? Okay, I'm blanking on this and moving on. So basically what I wanted to show was that if we created we didn't create a border around, we would see that in all the open spaces, we would have this icon seeping in, and it would sort of become a a layered icon on top when we created every time we created a new layer or a new VI. So that's of course a problem. But I don't know if one of the other things that comes across when you're trying to do large applications, when you have plenty of classes, is that it might be hard to see what's actually on your what's part of your user override and what's a static VI for the class itself. So one of the things that we've used to show this would be, come on, just a sec, would be to use this user glyph in the top. Sorry for the bad transition here. And especially when it comes to here, when you have a large list of VIs, this is just a very, very small example, but here you can see that we can actually here we would be running the one that is on the input wire would be changed to the user interface one, or the user override one. So override per class. And it's very interesting when you're trying to document your code and see where stuff goes wrong. If you can actually directly see where the UI has broken down. So that was a bit about class icons. Moving on to chameleon icons, and this might be a different topic all in all. This is icons pretending to be something else. And there's a disclaimer to this part of the talk. Doing any of these icons can and should get you fired. I cannot be held responsible for any of the actions that you take after this information. This is your choices, yours alone. And I cannot state that any clearer. So let's switch to more demos. Don't try this at home, kids. If we look at this part here, of course, everybody knows that the text or the space constant in NI or in the LabVIEW is not a constant, but it's actually a VI that poses this part. But this should seemingly be a normal VI that you should be able to trust. And if you run it, you shouldn't trust your error constants because they can actually fit inside the VI icon. So if you double click it, you'll see that we have this single button dialog actually happening. It could be far more nefarious code, but chose just a button dialog. But what if we do something else, like some people use VI Analyzer. So let's try and analyze this VI. So where do we have it? Tools, if I remember correctly, VI Analyzer, and analyze this VI. And it takes a while. And yeah, go for it. All of these. And hit the Analyze button. It shows up with 3 problems. There's a missing error cluster on a blank icon VI. Where's that? It's actually sitting right here. So here we have a VI without any icons. And you can't even click it. You can't double click it. You can move it if you can find the right pixel to actually capture it. And it does have an input and an output error terminal. But for some reason, it's just this works. And as you can see here, suddenly you can end up with some very, very odd block diagrams that is actually written like this. And the output of the VI actually shows here. So you could end up with something that looks like this. And if that happens, you should be very wary of your code. Particularly also because you could have if I could find my cursor here, you could have the, I was opening from a wrong place. Come on. So here, you could have somebody do this with the nefarious code. It's only caught because this terminal was captured by the analyzer. So nobody could see it was there, and you can't click on it, and you would only, if you pass by this particular pixel, you would see the connection terminals. So if it didn't have terminals, it would be easy to miss. And of course, one could question how that happens. Well, if it doesn't have any layers and it doesn't have a template, then it's a blank VI. So there's something for security, might be. It could also be fun to use for April Fools, but more on that on another day. Yeah. So chameleon icons. Continuing on, based on all of this, and I'll promise this will be my last presentation on icons for now, at least this year. Maybe something will happen later, but Jesper had armed himself with the Book of Armaments, and in the Book of Armaments he had the recipes for the Holy Hand Grenade, and he decided to use it. And that's it for this time. Any questions?
Cheers, Jesper. That was class. Really good. Really good. Anybody got any questions for Jesper? We all good. Alrighty. Nice one.